Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and today we're going to take a look at the GameMax F15. Possibly the best case you can buy. Keep watching to find out why. Okay, so in today's video we're going to take a look at the GameMax F15. Now this case is available in two models. There is the full mesh front version, as you can see here. There's also another version available which has a solid glass section in this front, but is pretty much the same price. So you can choose between the two. You can actually buy the secondary panels as an optional extra if you want to at a later date. Not too sure what the price of those at the moment because this is a relatively new case. Now I've actually picked this one up on a UK website called CCL here in the UK and managed to pick this up for £64.99, including VAT, which I think is absolutely a fantastic price for this type of case, especially with all its features and everything that's added straight out of the box. So let's take a tour around the case and then we'll see what it can offer you. So the obvious place to start is the front. So this front section, the whole mesh section, is amazing for airflow. Behind the mesh there are two 200mm addressable RGB fans included straight out of the box. So this is really similar to the Cooler Master H500 with the mesh, the big fans on the front, the addressable RGB, all that stuff. Massive airflow. Now I have actually put a power supply in this and tested out the fans, etc., and I can tell you, even on the lowest speed setting, which actually there is a controller included, it is whisper quiet. So if you're considering maybe buying a PC and you want it to be super quiet but also look the part and have excellent airflow, this is definitely on your shopping list. Now taking off the front mesh, you can see that this is a completely separate panel, so you don't have to worry about any I/O or any wires or cables. This is easily removable for cleaning purposes, so that's fantastic. And as you can see, the mesh is pretty much completely see-through. There's a lot of airflow going on there, so you've got no issues whatsoever. Another thing I really do like about this is the fact that the bottom grab handle is fully enclosed, so you don't have any areas where there's going to be unfiltered air getting in, which is a bonus in my opinion. Looking back at the fans, as you can see, these things are absolutely huge and are opaque design, so the RGB lighting shines through nice and bright and evenly across the entire fan blade. Optionally, if you wanted to, you could actually remove these and install three 120mm fans. There is actually space behind these as well for a full 360mm radiator, again, should you see the need. But with this amount of airflow, I think a radiator is probably not the best of ideas. Moving around to the side, we've got a 4mm tempered glass panel, which is completely covers the entire side, top to bottom. Also, a nice feature is there's a black trim surround around the outside edges, so if you are taking it on and off quite frequently, any fingerprints you get whilst actually putting it back on are going to be easily hidden behind this black section. Another nice feature, which is actually relatively new to the GameMax range, is captive screws on the side panels, which is long overdue in my opinion, but actually makes it a lot better and less likely to lose them. The side glass panel has a very slight smoke tint to it, not entirely clear. So moving back round to the inside of the case, really nice layout. We've got support here. It doesn't actually say it in the manual or in the information, but you could actually fit in here a eATX motherboard if you wanted to. There's plenty of room and the entire back section is completely flat, so you've got no unusual ridges or bumps to try and deal with. Essentially it's designed to be used with ATX motherboards, although if you wanted to, you can put in micro ATX or of course ITX. Inside the case we've got our small accessories pack, which comes with a RF remote control for controlling the lighting and also the fan speeds. There is also a bracket, so you can actually mount a vertical GPU if you wanted to. The PCI Express cutouts on the back leaves it completely open, so you can quite easily put this in to mount a GPU vertically. Again, another fantastic touch. One slight downside, there are no rubber grommets, but all of the cutouts have been put in really good places and are nicely rounded off, so they're not going to give you any cut fingers. Also in this main section, you will possibly notice that the top section is actually raised above the motherboard, so you've got a good 2.5 to 3 inches of clearance between potentially a radiator or fans in the top, should you wish to put them in there. In the top section, you can put either two 120mm fans, two 140mm fans, or combinations thereof. Obviously, radiators if you want to, 120, 140, 240 and 280 will fit with absolute ease. The rear cutouts allow you to install up to 7 PCI Express devices, or at least there's 7 slots. Obviously if you've got a graphics card which takes up 2 or more slots, you can reduce that accordingly. Also in this inner section, For a little bit of extra filtration, should you need it, there is actually a removable magnetic filter on the inside, which again will cover the entire 360mm opening if you choose to put 3 fans in, or again a radiator. You can choose to leave this in or out. Personally, I think when I'm using it, because of the mesh being quite fine on the front, I'll probably leave this out just to have a little bit more extra airflow. Moving down to this bottom section, there's a nice cutout here. Again, if you're putting radiators in there, 360mm radiators, plenty of room to put fans and radiators behind this if you wanted to. The basement section is a really nice design and it gives you a lot of flexibility. There's a cutout so you can see the branding of your power supply, or if you've got an RGB power supply, you can let some light flood out through there. This side section is solid and has the GameMax logo, which actually has been done really nicely again in that kind of grey colour rather than the green, which is personally my preference. The top section actually has a removable hard drive bay, and this is on a thumb screw again, which again is captive, which is nice to see. This particular unit you can put 2 2.5-inch drives or 1 3.5-inch drive should you want to, or you can leave that out altogether. There's also a honeycomb mesh along this top section. Again, you can mount drives directly to this if you wanted to. There's also cutouts or punch outs available, so you can put a support bracket for your vertically mounted GPU. Again, on this section, there's some really fantastic cutout options. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cutouts, all in really good places to wire in things like your front I/O, hard drive, LEDs, all those kinds of things. Especially good for those USB 3 headers, which tend to be a little bit fatter. And to answer one of those questions that I frequently get, are the motherboard standoffs pre-installed? Yes, they are. There's 6 pre-installed standoffs already included, and the central one here actually has a locating ring as well to make installing a motherboard really simple and easy to align. If you're using a larger motherboard or a micro ATX motherboard, you will need to move some of those standoffs in the correct positions for your motherboard. But overall, this section in here, absolutely perfect in my opinion. So moving around to the rear, pretty much standard affair here. We've got a little bit of ventilation at the top. We've got a space here for a 120mm fan. There is a little bit of adjustment up and down, but other than that, 120mm is the largest you can put in here. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could put a 120mm all-in-one cooler. That would fit in there very easily. You've got standard place for your I/O shield, and then we've got our removable PCI Express plates. A little bit of ventilation here on the side. Again, if you are using a vertically mounted GPU, this will allow some of the air to escape or for some air to come in, depending whether you're using a positive or negative air setup. In this bottom section, we've got our power supply mounting area, which, because of the ventilation in the grille on the top, you can mount the power supply either way up. There is actually some foam pads on the bottom as well to stabilize your power supply and also to eliminate any rumble or rattle that you may get from that device. So moving around to the back, we've got this solid panel, which is minimal flex and again has captive screws, which is nice to see. And this is the business area. So we've got lots of flexibility here. Again, plenty of punch outs to run your cabling through. You've got an additional mounting area here for either a 3.5-inch drive or 2 2.5-inch drives. And again, this is on a captive screw and is removable. So if you don't want to use it, you can leave it out altogether. Now the basement section is excellent in my opinion. You've got a ventilated area and also a very flexible area. So you've got a hard drive mounting area here, so 3.5-inch drive on the bottom, plus an additional 2.5-inch drive on the top if you wanted to. You could possibly squeeze another 3.5-inch drive in there as well. So for video editing systems or multiple drive systems, this is going to be fine. The lower third of the front mounted fan actually comes into this section. So if you do have hard drives here, they will keep ventilated and keep them nice and cool. You can actually remove this in its entirety if you want to. So if you need a little bit more space, if you've got a larger power supply, or maybe you've got something else going on, you can remove that to give you a little bit more clearance room. The entire bottom section is ventilated and also filtered, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. Moving further up, we've got the addressable RGB and fan controller. Now this can control up to 6 fans and 6 addressable RGB devices, of which you've got 3 included as standard. So you've got the 2 fans on the front, the 2 200mm fans. You've also got a 120mm addressable RGB fan in the rear. So this is already installed and connected up to the controller. Again, you can add in additional GameMax fans if you wanted to, but because it uses the standard setup, which is either 3 or 4 pin PWM style headers for the fans and 5V 3-pin addressable RGB headers, you can plug in pretty much universal kit on here. So if you've got another device which uses addressable RGB, you're not going to have any issues at all. There's also a pass-through cable, so you can relegate the control of both the addressable RGB and the fan speeds to your motherboard's control. This is a really good feature. A lot of people will struggle with RGB and compatibility with motherboards, etc. But with this setup, you don't have to worry. You can use the motherboard's RGB controllers and fan controllers if you want to, but if you've got a slightly lower end board which doesn't have those features, you can use this controller to take control of all of those features. There's also buttons on the back which are a little bit redundant because obviously you're going to have your back panel on, but you can control the addressable RGB from the reset button on the top of the case, which is connected into this controller. Again, entirely up to you whether you use that or not. You can just go with the included infrared remote control, or you can use the reset switch, or again, you can use your motherboard software. Very, very flexible. Moving down to the I/O, so we've got our USB 3 header. There's only one port on this, which is a slight downside, but it's not the end of the world. You've also got your HD audio connector. You've got another USB 2 header, which goes to 2 ports. And you've got your normal I/O connections for hard drive LED, power switch, reset switch, and power button. Moving down to the very bottom of the case, you can see you've got these nice chrome feet with rubberized pads on them to prevent vibrations. You've also got this full-length filter. Again, this is one of the things which I'm slightly downbeat about. The filter is actually one of those ones that clips in rather than being a magnetic one. I would have rather have seen a magnetic one, but again, at this price point, this is a very, very minimal issue. Moving to the top of the case, this is where we've got our I/O, and also we've got this magnetic removable grill. So again, nice and easy to keep clean. So just a shame they didn't have one of these on the bottom as well. That would have made it perfect. As you can see, this is slightly offset as well, bringing it away from the motherboard VRM section. So plenty of clearance there. You've got your USB 3.0 port, USB 2, a headset and microphone jack, another USB 2, your reset switch or RGB switch, depending on how you want to wire it, and you've got your main clicky on-off switch. So a pretty full-featured I/O set. So overall, a very, very nice feature set, tons and tons of flexibility, loads of mounting options for fans. In fact, you can actually, if you wanted to, you can add another couple of fans on this bottom section. Again, because it's completely open, as is the bottom section, you can actually get some benefit of putting fans there. So maybe if you've got 2 fans pushing up towards a graphics card, going to keep your graphics card nice and cool. But anyway, that's enough wittering on. I suppose what most of you want to see is the RGB effects. So I'm going to go ahead and put a power supply in here and we'll go through the lighting. Okay, so there you go. There is the case lit up, and as you can see, the fans look absolutely brilliant. Now at the moment, the fans are in the low speed setting on the remote control, which you can just press the fan button and you can increase the speed. Now on top speed, which is what this is now, on the highest speed, you can possibly just about pick that up on the microphone. It still is pretty much whisper quiet, which is one of the benefits you get of having larger fans. Because they are larger fans, larger blades, they move a lot more air, but at lower RPMs. So plenty of airflow in there. It's very cold in there. So that is really nice. Now, with the remote control, as I said before, you can change the modes of the lighting. So you can just go through and press the buttons and you get various lighting effects, which is the standard kind of thing you expect to see on these type of designs. Again, you can control this with your motherboard's RGB control software if you wanted to. The option is entirely yours. But for simplicity, I think this works very, very well. It's got some really nice RGB effects. As is always the way with GameMax cases, they do generally have very, very good implementations of RGB on their cases. This does remind me a lot of the GameMax Kamikaze Pro, which is a micro ATX version, which I did say when I reviewed that, if only they did this in a ATX version. And this is pretty much the next best thing. It's not an entirely same design, and actually I prefer the design. This does look very much like the Cooler Master H500 in my opinion, but costs probably about half the price, if not less. But you get all this stuff included straight out of the box, which is really, really nice. Again, on the remote control, you've got options. So you've got your program 1, which is your RGB unicorn puke, various different modes you can choose. Again, they all look very, very nice. If you want to, you can actually press the hold button and stop it in a particular position. So if you've got a particular lighting effect that you like, you can let it do that. There is also a button on the remote control for a motherboard sync. So if you press that, it hands over control to the motherboard. And also there's a fan auto button, which also hands over control of the fans to the motherboard, which is excellent. And if you get really bored of it and you don't like it, just hit the off button and you can turn all those settings off. But we kind of like RGB, so we're going to leave it on. So all in all, I think this is a fantastic case. I would say it's borderline perfect. Taking into consideration the price, the features, everything you get. The only downsides that I would really be kind of nitpicking at is the fact that possibly that you can't get 3 120mm fans in the top section. That would be a bonus, but I think having up to 280mm worth in the top section is more than adequate. Not having a magnetic filter on the basement section, again, not a deal breaker. Realistically, how often do you actually clean the filter on the bottom of your case? Not very often, so it isn't going to be a massive problem. And I suppose another thing which you could nitpick was the fact that there's no rubber grommets around the I/O and cutout section. Again, £65, you do get a fantastic amount of features for the money, and this actually is going to replace my in-win case at the moment, which is in my video editing PC. So I'm going to be putting this in there in a build coming up very soon. So if you want to watch that, click on the video link up here and you'll be able to see it. It may well happen in a live stream, so it might be a long-winded video, but you can certainly get to see how the process goes and how this actually all turns out. I'm pretty confident it's going to turn out excellent, but let me know what you think in the comments section below. So this has been the GameMax F15. I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.